Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of our Slack's Customer Success Podcast, where we discuss how Slack can help you and your team drive better collaboration and organizational efficiency, making your work life simpler, more pleasant, and more productive. Before anything else, I wanted to thank you so much for the views and the likes and the comments that you have sent us via your account teams. We really appreciate it, and we're delighted to have you joining us in this journey. So there's many ways in which Slack can do this for you, in the sense of like helping you and make your lives, your work lives more pleasant and more productive. But today we're going to focus in how internal communications teams can take advantage of some key features to drive better collaboration. To do this, I'm really excited to be joined by Emily Zwecker, who is a senior manager of internal comms here at Slack, and is the best person to have this conversation with. So welcome, Emily, and thanks a million for taking the time to talk to me today. How are you doing?
Of course, I'm doing great. I'm so honored. I'm the best person to talk about this. No, honestly, I work with an entire team that any of us could have done this. So really excited to be here.
Well, really excited to have you here. Thank you so much. Before we jump into the matter of Slack for internal comms teams, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your tenure in Slack, and your career up until this point.
Absolutely. So hi, I'm Emily Zwecker. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I have been at Slack for almost 2.5 years. And prior to Slack, I have this weird philosophy that all roads have kind of led me here. I started my career in the sports industry. I then went to fashion, and I then went and found myself in tech. So I've really navigated all different industries, but the common thread throughout all of them was using the Slack platform.
Nice.
So it only makes sense that I wound up here, and I absolutely love it.
Perfect. And how does the use of Slack look like for our internal communications here at Slack? If I can say Slack so many times in a sentence, which I love. At a high level, how does that look like?
Yeah. So speaking from someone who's done internal comms at multiple companies before coming to Slack, there's no place for communications like Slack here, and it keeps talking about it all the time. We market this platform in so many ways. We call it a productivity platform, a digital HQ, but at its core, it's a communications tool. What we're doing all day long is actually just communicating with each other, with our customers. Engineers are communicating with the platform itself. But the way Slack is structured opens the door for an entirely different strategy than you would have with any other platform. So Miguel, I have a question. What is the first thing you learned about Slack? Like when you went through Slack 101, what did they teach you?
Joining Slack or using it on the first time?
Either. It's because the answer is going to be the same. What is?
It is kind of like a chat tool. That's the first thing that everyone told me.
Exactly. And what do you use to communicate within Slack?
Sorry, say that again?
What do you use in Slack? What is the main tool that you're checking all day long?
Keyboard, screen? My keyboard, my screen?
No, what are you checking on Slack? What's in your sidebar? What are you navigating through all day long?
Like all the channels, all the
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. There's the answer. So channels. And from an internal comms perspective, we look at channels like we would a TV channel, right? You have the news. You know, when you're turning to channel, I'm going to go with 7, right? You understand there's going to be news. You know you need to interact. You know you need to understand. You know innately when that information comes to you that you need to watch it. You need to understand to be like a part of society. You also know that scroll up a couple channels to, let's go with 11, there's a soap opera on. That's nice to have on in the background. You're not missing anything if you don't watch that. And then go up to more channels. You have a sports game on. If you're a huge fan of that team, you're rooting, you're in it. Your mindset is let's go. You're not taking your eye off it. Or I can hear later from the person next to me, so-and-so won the game. Great. Think of Slack the same way. That news channel, those are our announcement channels. The soap operas, that's nice to know. That could be social. That could be another team just you want to follow along. But the sports is like, okay, this is your team. This is what you're working on. This is your passion. This is what I'm rooting for. I'm locked. I want to know. But if I'm not logged into that project, or I'm not logged into that team, great. Someone tells me, look what we accomplished. High five. Right? So that's the same way that we're looking at Slack. And our channels work the same way. You know, as communicators, it's our job to set up channels with proper naming conventions and descriptions. And we use posting permissions to allow certain people to share announcements. That way, Our employees know where to go. They know what information to expect and how to interact with that channel, just like I explained with the TV channel. People are actually often surprised to find out that we don't use @here or @channel in our announcement channels.
Definitely.
It doesn't happen. We don't push notifications out. And that's because we've set up our Slack instance so employees know when a certain channel is bold, it's important. Or they also know, hey, I can mute this channel, I can leave it, I can archive it. This doesn't pertain to me. People always tell us, like, we're really afraid to leave channels. I'm like, it's okay, no one's going to be offended. And I think that's something our customers would benefit from hearing. Your sidebar doesn't need to be 5 miles long. You can take that time to leave a channel. So that's what we do from internal communications. We're using our announcement channels all day long. We're sharing information across an organization. Our goal is to align employees so that they know what goal they're driving towards, what information that they need. We're also using channels by job level, like for senior leaders or people managers. Sometimes we either want to share information with them first to give heads up, or really help our internal comms team be the eyes and ears of the organization. So let's say we're planning an announcement and a leader goes, wait, hey, my team is in QBRs all day. Don't post this that day. Great. Now we can be really mindful of this audience and change our plan. Or we can give a heads up, say, here's the announcement we're planning. Does this sound like it would resonate with all of your teams? No, actually, this is not thinking globally. This is an American sort of motif or metaphor that we're using. Great, let's change it. So that's really helpful by flagging them. It also helps to equip our people managers and our senior leaders when our employees have questions, when an announcement goes out. Also, sometimes, not everyone needs to know certain pieces. Obviously, we don't need to share promotion communications with everyone. Great for our people leaders. For our senior leaders, we can give some additional justification or rationale when it comes to how a decision was made. So we're using those channels to leverage to help us really be those eyes and ears and to message and cascade information down to employees. So honestly, that's what we're doing all day. That's our goal. What's so unique about Slack is we're not using anything else. I've been in positions where how do you use Slack amongst email? How do you use it with an intranet? How do you use it with an all hands? Do I take one message and send it out all different ways? My answer is honestly no, and we can continue to talk about that. But also just, aside from Slack, we only have a monthly all hands or an all Slack call is what we call it. So that's where we're getting information. So setting up Slack from the get-go in terms of, okay, great. Here's how Slack should look for your company so you can set those expectations. That's how Slack's going to be successful. So that was some advice and some, here's what we're doing all day. We're communicating, we're in channels. Yeah, that's it.
Really love that. And I really like to see how, like, as you said, like channels are probably the first feature that Slack had, like the first thing that it offers. And just by being strategic, you can just milk that one feature, that one aspect to Slack, and like extract tons of value out of it. So I absolutely love that. Maybe I should be included in more like, secret channels so that I know things beforehand, but we can discuss that. Like
we'll get you in there
afterwards. Yeah, like
terms of internal comms.
Yeah, I'll make an alias or something like. So, just kidding. In addition to channels, what would you say that are like a couple other features of Slack that are vital for people working in internal teams, in internal comms teams? Sorry.
Yeah. So Slack has a ton of features. Slack has an integration. Slack has everything, and it's come such a long way from when I first started using it. Let me backtrack. I'm going to go. Okay, here's my first one. Posting permissions. I know I just brought it up. I'm going to tell you a little story. I started my career at this big sports company, and I started my career doing PR. I never found myself in internal communications. No one wakes up one day and is like, hey, I want to do PR for employees, right? If you fall into it, it's not a career you aspire to have. And I was honestly thrown into it because this company was going through some media turmoil and a lot of change at that time. So I kind of found myself in an entirely new position. So I worked with the then president, the first time I ever did this, the then president of ESPN, on a really important note. I want to say it was like a paragraph. It was not long, but it took 3-4 days to like go back and forth with edits. Internal communicators, you will know what I'm talking about. Word choice is everything. But I finally was like, great, this is done. And so where are we going to send it? I was like, you know what? We just adopted Slack. Every single person has it. And what channel is every single person in? General, right? So let's send it there. That was not a good idea. So we sent that message in there. And I kid you not, within 2 minutes, someone else posted right below this very important message. Who wants 2 Mariah Carey tickets for tonight? And you can guess that with no Slack etiquette and no use of threading, that the post, what we worked so hard on, that was really valuable and important for employees to hear, was miles up the page, right? I want the tickets. How much are they going for? Are they still available? Oh my goodness, she's here. So that in itself was a huge learning lesson. And I'm like, you know what? Wouldn't it be great if I can shut all that off or create a channel where only certain people can send? So posting permissions, that's something we use for internal comms all the time. We have the ability to add people as they want to post, but that way we're keeping that channel under wraps. We can use an editorial calendar to say, hey, these are the posts that are going out this week. These are who they're from. And everyone else can reply via emoji or reply in thread. Keep channels clean and from not thinking like you have to scroll up miles if you were out for a week. So that's my first one.
Very good point. Yeah. Definitely.
My next, okay, let's go to the newest one. On behalf of, the amount of times we have waited for an exec to post something. I was like staring at the clock. Are they doing it yet? Can I get their EA to post for them? So now we can. On behalf of is a brand new feature where I can kind of proxy into someone else's account to post for them, obviously with permission. But the amount of times that sometimes like one big post or one announcement that an exec sends then is relied on for follow-up messages, linking this out. It's really important that we get that out in a timely manner, and they can be in customer meetings. They could be having back-to-back meetings. We don't have time to do this. So now instead of waiting on them, we can take the action, and it's an absolute great feature. I've been waiting for it. Let me think what else. Scheduled send. That's another one. That's a great one. That's not even just for internal comms, but Slack is a great tool to help us work asynchronously, right? Salesforce is a global company. Slack, if you don't know, is part of the Salesforce organization. So like many of our customers, we have people that are working in all different time zones, and we don't want to disturb our colleagues across the globe. If they're sleeping, I'm awake. This also allows me to work at various times of the day without relying on someone to respond. So I have a colleague who is out of Dublin, and if I'm working at night, it is like 3 a.m. her time. I can use scheduled send so that when I'm finished working and I need to send her my message, I can use scheduled send to say, hey, this is going to go out at this time, her time. I could still be asleep. She gets the message. I didn't disturb her. She's not waking up to some crisis. And it really helps us be mindful and get the work done when you need. It's also great for announcement channels. I can be on the road in another meeting. Great, this has to go out at a certain time. I've prepped it. I hit scheduled send for the exact time. And if something changes, I can still go in and edit it. That's another really, really great feature. One more. I have to give it love. Canvas.
Go ahead.
This has come out in the last year, and it's changed my life in so many ways. So what do we do for internal comms all day? We're writing, we're drafting, we're collaborating. I can recall like the painful days of writing on a Word document, then saving that document, emailing it to someone, checking track changes, then making edits and sending a new version back. Like that was the cycle for communications. So Canvas is not just a stagnant place for channel information, which it is, and it's amazing. But for comms, it's so useful that a drafting tool exists that we can collaborate on. It also, the information in there will look exactly like it does when we hit send, down to the bullet point, down to the emoji. We can share it in a channel to give a group of people access, give their input. Comments are threads, so you can get a notification when someone commented back. You're not adding someone. So it honestly could not be any easier. It has changed my life. We draft everything in a Canvas, and if I'm not working in Slack, that is where you'll find me. So
perfect.
Those are my top features. I think I went with 4.
Perfect. Love them. And also, I think that all of those features are things that we haven't discussed yet in Canvas. So I guess sort of achievement for that. But yeah, so to recap, you mentioned permission posts,
Yeah.
you mentioned schedule send on behalf of, and
Yeah.
Canvas as your favorite all-time.
I'd say those are my favorite. Exactly.
Perfect.
There are
Perfect.
more. We'll roll it up to those.
There's plenty more, but we had to pick some, which is fine. In addition to that, what advice would you have for any internal teams using Slack? In internal communications teams using Slack, sorry.
Of course. So my advice is to figure out how Slack best fits into your internal communication strategy. I feel like I just mentioned this, but at Slack, we're only using Slack. That's unique. And that honestly scares a lot of customers. Like, you're not sending an email. I can't tell you the last time I checked my email. I only really use it for calendar invites, and I don't even have to. I can integrate it into Slack. But in my past experience, I've been in our customer shoes where I'm trying to determine, where does Slack fit in? What message can I take? Do I post it on the internet and an email and Slack and an all hands and think, all right, everyone's going to get it somehow because they'll see any of those. But what's really, interesting is like my easy answer is to use Slack for everything and figure out where the rest kind of fall. My take on it is also, you'd send a Slack message very differently than you'd send a message on any other communications platform. And that's the key. I guess that's my key advice. Slack can be a noisy place, right? But it is what you make of it. The goal of an internal communicator is to cut through the noise with clear, concise messages. Don't be afraid to bold headlines and then provide context below. Use threads. Make messages short and succinct. Also, use emojis. I'm not saying put a wink after every line, but emojis can help format a post and make it really digestible. Arrows, for example, are a way to indicate where to look, or celebratory emojis are great to throw in when congratulating a team. I would never use them in place of a word, but use them to provide additional context and formatting. And we see a lot of execs afraid of them. So my advice is don't be. Also, use your personality. A lot of times we use bots or aliases to share or speak from an authoritative place to a general audience. Don't do that on Slack. It's better to cut a person. That way you're associating the type of work that's being done, the leader who's announcing. It provides more of trust and value and understanding, oh, I want this person to tell me. Wouldn't you rather, figuratively, have someone in the imaginary cubicle next to me share a piece of news that's going to me, especially when it comes to change management, than some bot that I don't know who is behind that, right? The message is going to resonate. It's going to land. You can use personality and a sense of humor. Like, don't be afraid to showcase who you are in your posts. That's something that I'm really keen on doing, is making sure that I come through in a message and I don't sound like a bot or an alias, right? And that's something we really recommend our execs. And when we're drafting on behalf of someone, we're making sure to use their voice and keep their voice in mind when we're helping to write a message. And everyone has a different voice. Everyone has a different way of communicating. Use Slack, as that vehicle to help deliver that message. So that's my advice. Show personality and use it to the best of your ability. What you'd post on an intranet is long form. It's different. Be clear, be concise, and have a sense of humor on Slack. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, I love that, because being on the receiving end of comms, like, I don't produce comms, but I obviously get tons of comms during the day. I just, like 5 years ago, one of the things I noticed immediately, it was that I was reading our announcement channels. Because if I'm working in my previous life, if I was working off of an email inbox, and that is where I'm busy, and I go there to get things done and knock one thing after another, getting rid of a notification of unread email is kind of a goal on its own.
Right.
I'm in the middle of something.
You want to get that number down.
I want to get rid of it. But in Slack, I do consume the information from the announcement channel when it works for me. And also it conveys the tone much better because it has emojis, as you were saying. So I really appreciate it. So it really works from the people who are getting those communications.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Our work here is done.
Perfect.
Never.
So all of that has been fantastic. Is there anything else that you cannot imagine being able to do if you didn't have Slack?
Yeah, for sure. I have two answers. I'm gonna have a simple question, a more simple answer, and a more complicated answer.
Fair enough.
My first is simple, transparency. And I don't mean transparency and me giving you all the information to have at your fingertips. I mean being able to look at an entire company and not feel siloed. I can see what anyone is working on in an organization. And we hear so many of our customers say, we're only using Slack for DMs or private channels. That's where I would challenge you to change that. If you're using public channels across the board to show what work is being done, where efforts are, where our goals are, I can find those channels and understand what's going on across an entire organization. So that's key. If you're not copied on an email, you don't have access to that information. And if it's not shared in all hands, you're not getting that either. Slack allows you to take a look horizontally through a company, not just your vertical and what you're working on, but you can really gain insight to understand, oh, they're working on this. I want to help work on that. That's something I can actually step in and help communicate to an entire organization. So that's my first answer, is being transparent from a horizontal level of understanding what's going on in all aspects of this organization. My second answer is understanding the employee experience or employee sentiment. When you send out an email, sometimes I just feel like, okay, this is just going out into the abyss, right? Great, I hit send, my job is done. Not on Slack. On Slack, you send out this message, and how people react will tell you a lot. You cannot just, by hitting view message activity, you're understanding who's reading it, how many people, how they're reacting. But you can use reactions, which are the emojis that you click at the bottom. That tells a lot. Did this message resonate? Which lead did it come from? And did people read it more than from someone else? Do people have questions? Did we actually answer what we wanted to? Are people questioning in thread? Is there additional context we need to be given? Should we be providing FAQs for their leaders to answer some questions that people are having? We can tell through those reactions and through the response in Slack, are people happy? Are they motivated? Are they inspired? Are they disappointed? Are they uneasy? How was this message reciprocated? How did it resonate? And that's the key. Sending out a message in Slack, you're getting that feedback, you're getting that information just based off their reactions. Even in an announcement channel, when no one else can post, you still have access to that. And when you create a culture of connectivity and making sure people feel like they can speak up, that will help you as a communicator, right? If you allow those reactions, and people can be open, say, hey, I didn't like how this was delivered, or I feel uneasy about this news. Where can I go for more context, or how did we arrive at this decision? We want to hear from employees. Slack shouldn't just be a one-way street. It's an opportunity for two-way feedback and two-way engagement. So that's the key, right? If you understand the employee experience and have access to employee sentiment, you're only bettering yourself at your job. That's not something you can do on email.
Very, very good point as well. I love seeing the posts and all, like the hearts that they get, or the let's go reactions, which
that was a good one.
We really do in Slack when we're really excited about something. And I agree, it's a wonderful point. Emily, you've been so good. I think there's so much gold in all the points you've made. Just to let you know, I'm going to be sharing this same episode with any further conversation about internal comms with any further customers of mine, because this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, please do. Thank you. Again, I'm so excited to be here and to talk about internal comms. We're doing this all day long, so might as well share wealth of knowledge.
Of course, I will try to come up with an excuse to do another round, because it's been a pleasure to have you here. And for our viewers, just let you know that we're going to append at the end of this episode a little demo clip with some of the features that Emily has been discussed. And as usual, we hope that you found a lot of value today. Thank you so much for joining us in this journey. And thank you, Emily, so much for your input today. That was really, very good. Bye-bye.